Tonight, FBI and TSA agents have stormed Minneapolis Airport, dismantling a flight attendant smuggling ring that trafficked 304.
At exactly 4:47 a.m. on a frozen Tuesday morning, federal agents surrounded the gates of Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport with a single directive: shut it down. Not for weather, not for security drills, for cartel infiltration that turned America's sky into a drug highway. Within the next 6 hours, FBI, DEA, TSA, and ICE would execute the largest aviation-based drug enforcement operation in Midwest history, arresting 23 individuals, seizing over $340 million worth of pure cocaine, dismantling a flight attendant smuggling ring that spanned a dozen cities, and exposing a shadow logistics empire run from inside the terminal itself. And at the center of it all was a man who wore a federal uniform by day and controlled cartel routes by night. This is the story of how a Mexican cartel turned commercial airliners into invisible cocaine pipelines, how they weaponized trust to move narcotics across the continent unchecked, and how one corrupt aviation security chief became the most dangerous gatekeeper the cartel ever owned. What you're about to hear will make you question every flight you've ever taken. Because if they can do this in Minneapolis, they can do it anywhere. 4:47 a.m., Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, Minnesota. The sky is still dark, the terminal lights glowing cold and sterile against a blanket of early winter fog. Inside the concourse, a few overnight cleaning crews push carts down empty hallways. Outside on the tarmac, a Delta aircraft sits dormant near gate G12, waiting for its morning departure to Detroit. But something else is moving through the fog. Black SUVs roll slowly into restricted zones near the cargo terminals. No sirens, no flashing lights, just silent, coordinated precision. FBI tactical units, DEA strike teams, ICE enforcement squads, TSA federal air marshals, and DHS investigators converge on 3 locations simultaneously. The main employee security checkpoint, the cargo sorting hub beneath Concourse C, and a private aviation office leased under the name Skybridge Logistics, LLC. And at exactly 4:52 a.m., they move.
Flashbangs detonate inside the cargo bay. Agents in black tactical gear flood through side doors, weapons raised, voices cutting through the freezing air like knives. Federal agents, hands up, down on the ground, now! Inside the sorting hub, a crew of 5 uniformed baggage handlers freeze mid-motion. Duffel bags are scattered across steel tables. One is half open, white bricks stacked neatly inside like industrial cargo. Cocaine. Pure, compressed, cartel grade. The handlers try to scatter. One bolts toward the loading dock. An FBI agent tackles him into a pile of luggage carts, zip-tying his wrists behind his back within seconds. Another tries to shove a duffel into an overhead chute. DEA agents rip it from his hands and throw him face first against the concrete. Within 90 seconds, all 5 are on the ground, cuffed, surrounded. But this is just the beginning. Agents crack open the remaining duffel bags. Cocaine, 20 bricks, 30, 50. They pry open steel cargo containers marked with fake airline baggage tags. More cocaine, hidden in false bottom suitcases, sewn into the lining of oversized backpacks, wrapped in vacuum-sealed layers and packed inside hollowed-out cosmetic cases. One agent pulls a brick from a bag labeled medical supplies, fragile. Another finds cocaine stuffed into the wheel compartments of rolling luggage. And then they find the manifests. Flight logs, passenger rosters, gate assignments, crew schedules, all annotated in handwriting with codes, timestamps, and city abbreviations. MSP to ORD, ORD to DTW, DTW to ATL, ATL to MIA. Minneapolis to Chicago, Chicago to Detroit, Detroit to Atlanta, Atlanta to Miami. A network, an organized, methodical smuggling pipeline that used commercial flights, trusted employees, and airline infrastructure to move narcotics across the country without ever touching a highway or a border checkpoint. One senior DEA agent radios back to command. "We've got multiple kilos on site, suspects in custody, but this is bigger. These manifests show movement across at least 12 airports. We need full forensic analysis now." Command immediately responds. "Secure everything. Pull the servers. We're expanding the operation."
6:14 a.m., FBI Cyber Forensics Division, Federal Building, downtown Minneapolis. Inside a sterile, dimly lit room filled with monitors and humming server towers, federal analysts are already deep into encrypted drives seized from the Skybridge Logistics Office. The encryption crumbles within 40 minutes. What they find, makes every agent in the room lean closer to their screens. Slow reveal. A master operational diagram labeled Project Altitude. It's a logistics map. But not for freight or passengers. Emphasis, for cocaine. Tone, explaining, deliberate. The diagram shows airline routes drawn as glowing red pathways connecting nodes across the United States. Each node represents an airport. Each pathway represents a drug route. Emphasis, Minneapolis is the hub. From there, lines branch out to Chicago O'Hare, Detroit Metropolitan, Dallas-Fort Worth, Phoenix Sky Harbor, Denver International, and Las Vegas McCarran. Beneath the map are detailed financial records. Slow clear. Shell companies registered in Delaware and Nevada. Fake aviation consulting firms. Bogus maintenance contracts. Ghost payroll accounts that funneled money to over 30 individuals working inside TSA, airline ground crews, and private charter operations. Dramatic reveal. And at the top of the pyramid is a single name tied to every encrypted authorization, every financial transfer, every logistics approval. Emphasis slow. Marcus Brennan. Director of Airport Security Operations at Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport. A 22-year veteran of federal aviation security. Former TSA supervisor, current head of the entire security infrastructure for one of the busiest airports in the Midwest. Tone grave. And according to the files, the secret logistics commander for a Mexican cartel network using flight attendants and ground crew to smuggle cocaine across America. Tone building outrage. The analysts pull up his authorization logs. Security checkpoint overrides. 147 in the past 18 months. Employee vetting bypasses. 62 flagged hires pushed through without standard background checks. Cargo inspection waivers. 89. Containers cleared without physical review. Internal surveillance footage deletions. Over 300 hours of missing terminal camera feeds during suspected smuggling windows. One investigator mutters, "He didn't just look the other way, he built the tunnel." Another pulls up financial records linked to Brennan's accounts. Offshore deposits traced to shell companies in the Cayman Islands and Panama. Wire transfers disguised as consultant fees from Skybridge Logistics. Monthly payments of $42,000 routed through cryptocurrency exchanges and converted into luxury real estate purchases in Arizona and Nevada. Emphasis. Brennan didn't just protect the operation. He designed it. He controlled which employees were hired. He controlled which cargo containers were inspected. He controlled which surveillance footage was recorded and which was erased. He turned Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport into a cartel fortress disguised as a transportation hub. And he did it with federal authority. Dramatic. One senior FBI official walks into the room, reads the screen, and delivers the line everyone is thinking. Emphasis, slow. This isn't corruption. This is command-level treason. He gave them the keys to the sky. Tone shift, urgent. The operation enters its next phase immediately. Pause. Emphasis. 7:38 a.m. Joint Task Force Command Center, Federal Building, Minneapolis. Inside a secured operations room, a massive digital map covers the wall. Red markers pulse across the Midwest and beyond, each one representing a location tied to Project Altitude. Over 80 federal agents are assembled: FBI, DEA, ICE, TSA, DHS, U.S. Marshals. The mission commander steps forward. We are executing simultaneous enforcement actions across 9 cities. We have warrants for 23 individuals. We have seizure orders for 6 properties. We have frozen 11 corporate accounts. This is a full-spectrum takedown. We move in 30 minutes. Pause. Build tension. The map lights up with raid targets. Slow. Clear. Target 1. Marcus Brennan's private residence in Edina, Minnesota. Target 2. Skybridge Logistics headquarters near the airport cargo zone. Target 3. A luxury condo in downtown Chicago, registered under a shell company linked to Brennan. Target 4. A private hangar at Chicago O'Hare leased by a fake aviation maintenance firm. Target 5. A flight attendant training facility in Detroit used as a cartel recruitment front. Target 6. A storage unit complex in Phoenix filled with seized luggage and counting equipment. Emphasis. At 8:11 a.m. Pause. The raids begin.
In Edina, FBI tactical teams surround a gated mansion with circular driveway and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a private lake. They breach the front door with a battering ram. Marcus Brennan is in the kitchen, coffee in hand, wearing a tailored suit. He doesn't run. He doesn't resist. He just stares at the agents flooding his home and says nothing. They cuff him, read him his rights, and walk him out in front of news cameras already gathering at the end of the driveway. Inside the house, agents find a home office filled with encrypted tablets, airline access credentials, cartel communication devices, and a safe containing $680,000 in cash, gold bars, and falsified security clearance documents. They also find handwritten notes detailing recruitment strategies for flight attendants, baggage handlers, and TSA agents willing to join the operation for monthly payments ranging from $8,000 to $25,000. One note reads, "Trust is currency. The uniform is the passport." At Chicago O'Hare, DEA and ICE agents storm the private hangar. Inside, they find a Cessna Citation jet registered to a shell company, along with cargo pallets, vacuum seal machines, and industrial scales covered in white powder residue. They arrest 4 aviation mechanics and 2 pilots who were preparing the aircraft for a flight to Phoenix. In the hangar office, they seize encrypted laptops, fake flight plans, and ledgers showing over $90 million in cocaine transported over the past 14 months using private and chartered flights coordinated with commercial airline schedules to avoid detection. In Detroit, FBI agents raid a nondescript office building that advertises itself as a crew training and consulting center for regional airlines. Inside, they find a cartel recruitment hub. Fake training materials, cartel payment contracts disguised as performance bonuses, encrypted phones preloaded with cartel contact channels. They arrest 6 individuals, including 2 former flight attendants who recruited active crew members into the smuggling ring by offering them $15,000 per successful cocaine transport from Minneapolis to Miami. The flight attendants were trained to carry cocaine in modified carry-on luggage, fake cosmetic bags, and even sewn into the linings of their uniform jackets. They were taught how to avoid random TSA checks, how to coordinate with compromised ground crew, and how to transfer packages during layovers without being noticed. One arrested woman, still wearing her airline uniform, breaks down during interrogation. "They told us it was risk-free. They said Brennan controlled everything. They said we'd never get caught." But she did, and so did 20 others. By noon, the operation is complete. 23 arrests across 5 states.
$340 million worth of cocaine seized from airport cargo bays, private hangars, storage units, and vehicles. Over $12 million in cash recovered from residences, safe deposit boxes, and cartel-linked bank accounts. 11 commercial flights grounded and searched, leading to the discovery of an additional 18 kilos of cocaine hidden in passenger luggage checked by cartel-recruited flight attendants. 47 airline employees placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The TSA immediately suspends security operations at Minneapolis St. Paul International and begins a full internal review of every employee clearance issued under Brennan's authority over the past 5 years. The underworld took more damage in 6 hours than it had in the last 6 years. But the deeper investigators looked, the worse it became. 2:47 p.m., FBI Evidence Analysis Unit, Minneapolis. Agents are combing through server logs, emails, text messages, and internal airline communications pulled from Brennan's devices. What they discover is a betrayal that cuts deeper than cocaine. Brennan didn't just recruit flight attendants and baggage handlers. He compromised TSA agents. 12 federal TSA officers were on his payroll, receiving monthly payments between $5,000 and $18,000 in exchange for letting cartel-recruited crew members bypass secondary screenings, flagging random inspections in advance, and deleting security footage after cocaine handoffs. He also paid off 2 airport operations managers who controlled gate assignments and crew rotations, allowing cartel-recruited flight attendants to work specific flights on specific days when cocaine shipments were scheduled. The logs show a level of coordination that is chilling. When a cocaine shipment was scheduled to move from Minneapolis to Miami, Brennan would assign a cartel-recruited flight attendant to that route, ensure a compromised TSA agent was stationed at the crew security checkpoint, schedule a trusted baggage handler to load the aircraft, coordinate with ground crew in Miami to retrieve the cocaine during the layover before it ever touched a baggage claim. The system was flawless. Until it wasn't. One honest TSA supervisor noticed irregularities in crew screening logs and flagged them to the FBI. That single report triggered the investigation that brought down the entire network. When confronted with the evidence, one arrested TSA officer breaks down. "I didn't think it was this big. I thought it was just a few bags. I didn't know he was running the whole thing." But ignorance is not innocence, and the badge does not shield betrayal. Every compromised officer is arrested, every clearance is revoked, every internal security protocol is rewritten from the ground up. The airport will be rebuilt, but the trust will take years to restore. 6:19 p.m., FBI press conference, Federal Building, Minneapolis. The FBI special agent in charge steps to the podium in front of a wall of cameras and reporters. Today, federal law enforcement dismantled one of the most sophisticated narcotics smuggling operations ever discovered in U.S. aviation history. This was not a random drug bust. This was a coordinated, multi-year infiltration of our airline system by a Mexican cartel network that weaponized trust, authority, and infrastructure to move hundreds of millions of dollars in cocaine across the country. 23 individuals have been arrested. Hundreds of kilos of cocaine have been seized. Millions of dollars in cartel assets have been frozen. And we are not done.
This investigation is ongoing. More arrests are coming. More assets will be recovered. And we will not stop until every individual who betrayed their uniform, their oath, and their country is held accountable. The room erupts with questions, but the message is clear. The sky is no longer a safe highway for cartels. 5 days later, Marcus Brennan sits in a federal detention cell awaiting trial. He faces over 40 federal charges, including racketeering, drug trafficking conspiracy, money laundering, bribery of federal officials, and obstruction of justice. If convicted, he will spend the rest of his life in prison. The 22 others arrested alongside him face sentences ranging from 15 years to life, depending on their level of involvement. Flight attendants who carried cocaine face 15 to 25 years. TSA agents who accepted bribes face 20 to 30 years. Ground crew and logistics coordinators face 25 years to life. Pilots and aviation managers who facilitated cartel flights face life without parole. The trials will take years, but the evidence is overwhelming. And the message to every cartel network watching is simple. If you infiltrate our airports, we will find you. If you corrupt our officers, we will arrest you. If you turn our infrastructure into your empire, we will dismantle it. This story is not just about cocaine. It's about power. About how corruption doesn't always announce itself with violence or chaos. Sometimes it wears a uniform. Sometimes it carries a badge. Sometimes it smiles at you as you board a flight and never makes you suspect that the person ensuring your safety is the same person moving narcotics in the cargo hold beneath your feet. Marcus Brennan had everything: a federal career, respect, authority, and a salary that most Americans would envy. But it wasn't enough. He wanted more, and the cartel gave it to him. In exchange, he gave them the sky. He turned commercial airliners into invisible cocaine pipelines. He turned flight attendants into mules. He turned TSA agents into accomplices. He turned one of America's busiest airports into a cartel logistics fortress that operated in plain sight for years, and he almost got away with it. But he didn't, because one honest officer saw something wrong and reported it. One investigation led to another. One warrant led to 100. And one raid in the early morning fog brought down an empire built on betrayal. The cost of this operation is not measured in cocaine alone. It's measured in the lives destroyed by the fentanyl, heroin, and methamphetamine that cartel networks distribute once the cocaine reaches the streets. It's measured in the families torn apart, the communities poisoned, the trust eroded. It's measured in the officers who now question whether their colleagues can be trusted. It's measured in the passengers who board flights wondering if the person checking their bag is protecting them or betraying them. This is what infiltration looks like. It's not loud. It's not obvious. It's quiet, methodical, and designed to blend into the system until it becomes the system. And the only way to stop it is to expose it, to investigate it, to prosecute it, to dismantle it piece by piece until there is nothing left but accountability. If you're still watching this, tap the like button so more people see this story. Share it with someone who needs to understand how deep cartel infiltration can go. Comment, expose. If you believe every corrupt official tied to drug cartels should be dragged into the light and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Because silence is what allows this to happen. Silence is what lets a trusted authority figure become a cartel commander. Silence is what turns airports into smuggling hubs and uniforms into cover stories. But exposure changes everything. And this story is your reminder that power without accountability is just corruption, waiting to be discovered. Once again, this story is a fictional dramatization created for storytelling purposes. All characters, officials, and events are invented for narrative impact and are not based on real individuals or specific incidents. But the warning is real. Cartel infiltration is real. Corruption is real. And the fight to protect our systems from betrayal is real. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and never assume that a uniform alone guarantees integrity. Because sometimes the most dangerous threat is the one standing at the gate, waving you through with a smile.